Malak Yahweh, Wa Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha, Kodash, and double honors to the elders of GMS Ruel. Blessings unto those men, and blessings and salutations to the Akim out there in truth, pushing his word in all sincerity and in honesty. With that being said, Shalom Israel Barakatah. Today's lesson, I have created the smith. With that being said, let's begin in Isaiah 54:16, which says the following. Isaiah 54:16, Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy. The smith or blacksmith worketh with metals. An ancient smith designed and repaired weapons and armor in ancient times. But when it comes to the modern day smith, on the other hand, he is a scientist that brings forth those deadly weapons of mass destruction. He brings forth those instruments that have the capacity to waste and to destroy. Right, those nuclear weapons. That's the work of the modern day smith. When it comes to the smith, the noise of the hammer and of the anvil is ever in his ears, according to the scripture of Ecclesiasticus or Sirach 38:28. The smith sits by the anvil. Let's go over to that scripture. Ecclesiasticus or Sirach 38:28. The smith also sitting by the anvil, and considering the iron work, the vapor of the fire wasteth his flesh, and he fighteth with the heat of the furnace. The noise of the hammer and the anvil is ever in his ears, and his eyes look still upon the pattern of the thing that he maketh. He setteth his mind to finish his work, and watcheth to polish it perfectly. Right, something that's polished has been perfected. As in the case of those arrows of mass destruction, along with their guidance systems of propulsion. They are perfected in their upgrades. And when it comes to those arrows of mass destruction, in the time of war, they shall not miss. The Spirit of the Lord shall be guiding them to their strategic targets. Let's go over to 2 Esdras 16:13. 2 Esdras 16:13. For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow. His arrows that he shooteth are sharp, and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world. Those 200 million missiles shall not miss, nor break their ranks in flight. They shall fall upon modern day Idumea, which speaks of America, aka Babylon the Great. Babylon the Great shall become the lake of fire. The day cometh when these sharp arrows of mass destruction shall be shot into the ends of the world. The ends of the world, that Western Hemisphere, the New World, America. Let's go over to that scripture of Isaiah 34:5. Isaiah 34:5. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven, behold, it shall come down upon Idumea, and upon the people of my curse to judgment. The Lord's sword that shall be bathed in heaven speaks of those arrows of mass destruction. The land of Idumea represents modern day America, but it's also a Greek word for Edom. And upon the people of my curse to judgment. A good example of that curse is leprosy. Cain said that the curse of leprosy that the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai put on him was too much to bear. You see? For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. That sword represents those arrows of mass destruction coming down upon modern day Idumea. They shall all take flight and shall not miss, according to that scripture of 2 Esdras 16:13, in which I just read. Those swords of the Lord shall take flight, and none shall malfunction, and shall not be brought down during flight, because the Spirit of the Lord shall be guiding them to their strategic targets. None shall miss to hit their strategic targets. This is the will and purpose of the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahushai, according to the scripture of Jeremiah 51 and 29. That scripture of Jeremiah 51 and verse 29 says, "And the land shall tremble in sorrow, for every purpose of the Lord, Yahweh Bahashem, Yahushai, shall be performed against Babylon, to make the land of Babylon a desolation without an inhabitant." And what's happening with Iran and the so-called Israeli and the Americans shall lead to World War III. Those missiles shall also touch down upon the place that the small hats now inhabit, but the heavy bombardment shall be concentrated upon modern-day Babylon the Great. Babylon the Great shall never rise again, but the land that the small hats now inhabit shall certainly rebuild. And once these missiles touch down, that great earthquake shall emerge, and the scenery and landscapes that you once knew shall change drastically in that besom of destruction. Nothing shall be left from that onslaught of that army of the horsemen. With that being said, let's go over to Revelation 9 and 16. Revelation 9 and 16. "And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them." This scripture speaks of 200 million missiles, and many missiles capable of carrying multiple warheads inside of that one missile alone. Like the missile from China, the Dongfeng, and the Sarmat from Russia. Revelation 9 and 17. "And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone." Now, real horses cannot shoot forth fire out of their mouths. This scripture is talking about the deadly effects of a nuclear detonation. The heads of the horses speak of those nuclear warheads of destruction. Those missiles represent destruction and the end of this wicked generation and civilization at hand. And the real prophets of the Lord are stationed in these four corners of the earth, speaking on those things that shall come in these last days, of that great tribulation, of that CHIP, and of that greater war of utter destruction to come. Revelation 9 and 18, "By these three was the third part of men killed, by the fire, and by the smoke, and by the brimstone, which issued out of their mouths." So that's clearly speaking about nuclear missiles. Remember that those missiles, especially the Sarmat, that Satan II Sarmat, is capable of carrying multiple warheads inside of that one missile alone. So fire shall issue out of their mouths, you see? So when it comes to the scriptures, it speaks of World War I, II, and III, as well as the missiles. It speaks about the deadly effects of missiles. Here we have the scripture of Revelation 9 and 12. "One woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter." The definition for the word woe means destruction. So in other words, the First World War of destruction has passed, as World War II has also passed, but the Third World War cometh quickly, according to the scripture of Revelation 11 and 14. Let's go over to that scripture. And here we have that scripture of Revelation 11 and 14. "The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly." Woe means destruction. The second woe is past, meaning that Second World War has passed. But the Third World War of destruction cometh quickly. As soon as they pass, that RF to the ID CHIP of Revelation 13 and 16. The Lord Yahweh Yahushua has given the modern day smith of Esau, Edom, the technology and knowledge of the modern day sword in order to create those destructive weapons of mass destruction. The modern day sword is also the gun. On that day appointed, those destructive arrows shall fly and will completely remove modern day Babylon the Great from power. And after the destruction, modern day Babylon the Great shall never rise to power. It shall remain desolate and without inhabitants. Now when it comes to the land that the small hats now inhabit, that shall certainly rebuild. But when it comes to modern day Babylon the Great, it shall never rise to power. But with that being said, Ka'olam Malak Yahweh, Wa Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachak, Wadash, and double honors to the elders of Jemash Ruel. Blessings unto those men, and blessings and salutations to the Akim out there in truth, pushing his word in all sincerity and in honesty. With that being said, Shalom Israel, Barakatah.